The New York harbor bound for Greenland. The Dorchester was escorted by 3 Coast Guard cutters. 2 patrol the flanks. The third was 3,000 yards out in front. Most of the men were seasick and green with nausea. The weather was bitterly cold and gale-force winds were blowing. Ice began building up on the decks, slowing the Dorchester to just 10 knots. Moving among the crowded men were 4 Army chaplains: George Fox, Alexander Good, Clark Poland, and John Washington. The chaplains talked with and listened to the men, soothing their apprehensions and offering encouragement, all the time sharing jokes and making them laugh a little. By their concern and their camaraderie with the men and one another, they brought solace. On February 2nd, 1943, the Tempest sonar, the ship that was out in front, detected the presence of a submarine. She dropped back and swept the periphery of the convoy, but she failed to find the submarine's position. That evening, the Tampa returned to patrol the area out front, and the other ships continued to follow. The captain ordered the men to sleep in their clothing, with life jackets close at hand. They were only 150 miles from Greenland. With daylight, there would be air cover from the American base. It was just after midnight on February 3rd, 1943. An enemy submarine fired a torpedo towards the Dorchester's aging flank. The missile exploded in the boiler room, destroying the electric supply and releasing suffocating clouds of steam and ammonia gas. Many of the men on board died instantly. Some were trapped below deck. Others, jolted from their bunks, groped and stumbled their way to the decks of the stricken vessel. Taking on water rapidly, the ship began listing to starboard. Overcrowded lifeboats capsized. Rafts drifted away before anyone could reach them. Men clung to the rails, frozen with fear, unable to let go and plugged into the dark, churning water far below. The testimony of survivors tells us that the sole order and the only fragment of hope in this chaos came from the 4 chaplains, who calmly guided the men to their boat stations. They opened a storage locker and distributed life jackets. Then they coaxed the men, who were frozen with fear, over the side. Soon the supply of life jackets was exhausted. Several survivors report watching in awe as the 4 chaplains either gave away or forced upon young men their own life jackets. These 4 men of God had given away their only means of saving themselves in order to save the others. The chaplains gathered together and led the men around them in prayer and a hymn. They linked their arms together as the slant of the deck became more severe. And just that way, with their arms linked in brotherhood and their heads bowed in prayer, they sank beneath the waves. It was a heroic act. It was not the only heroic act that night aboard the Dorchester, but it was especially significant because of the identity of these 4 young men: 2 Protestants, a Catholic, and a Jew. Today, as this post has done for many years, we keep alive the memory of these brave men and carry their message of interfaith cooperation and selfless service to the members and guests of our Legion family. And now we will be honored by a song from Billy Feehan, "You Raised Me Up," originally performed by Josh Grover.